Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the OCA's Getting Started with PMP webinar. My name is Liz Pridham, and I will be your speaker today. As a member of the OCA's software support team, I've been teaching PMP users how to use the software for the past 8 years. Prior to joining the OCA, I used PMP in chiropractic offices since its inception in 1991. Our session has been scheduled for 60 minutes. Additional questions on any topic are welcome offline and can always be sent to support@chiropractic.on.ca. The PMP help menu that you're looking at on screen right now will show you the email address and our phone number anytime you ever need it. Today I am going to give you some PMP basics to help you get more out of your program. We will look at some of the setup items that allow you to customize PMP for use in your office. We will look at some of the available shortcuts, and I will offer some suggestions so that you're able to save time. I will show you how to add a new patient, book appointments, and post activity. We will look at some of the reports that PMP offers so you know how to get the information that you need. We will not be discussing HCI or any provincial or third-party billing or reconciliation functions. Everything that I'm covering today is included in your manual, and the manual is available on the OCA website. It can also be sent to you by email. In addition to the manual, we will be creating a document that focuses on customizing PMP for your office, and when complete, it will also be available on the OCA website. We're going to start now with an overview of the main appointment book. Once you are logged into PMP, this is the screen that you're going to be presented with. At the very top of the screen in the title bar, you're going to see the date of your appointment book, and you're going to see the date of the current calendar. Below the title bar dates, you have all of your PMP menus. All of the functionality that's available in PMP is accessible through this series of menus. There are shortcuts for many of the functions, and some of those we will talk about today. Below the menu bar, you see your practitioner tabs. Some of you may have only one practitioner in your office, others will have many. And you can have up to 9 names across the top, up to 9 different tabs on your appointment book. You're able to move through these tabs by individually clicking on them. You can also move through the list by using the numbers on your keyboard. That's one of your shortcuts for the keyboard fans. The left-hand column lists your appointment times according to the interval that you have chosen for each practitioner. It might be 5, 10, 15, or 20-minute intervals. The color that you see in this column is going to indicate to you the validity of the appointment time. Is it before doctor's hours, during doctor's hours, an office holiday, a lunch break? And if you use custom colors, it may mean a staff meeting time. It can mean anything you choose it to mean. The number of columns across your appointment book indicate how many patients a practitioner can see in each of those time intervals, and you are able to customize it by practitioner. So in my case, Dr. Palmer has 4 columns, but my massage therapist has only 1 column. That is one of the customization options that you have. Below the main appointment screen, you have days of the week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and so on. These days always relate to the days for this week being the same week that your calendar is looking at. So today is February the 5th. My PMP knows that I'm in the week of February the 5th, so these are the days this week. If I choose to look at last week or next week, the minus and the plus signs will move my calendar 1 week at a time. So when I hit a plus, I'm at next Tuesday. My minus brings me back to today, back to last week. And when I'm ready to be back on today's appointment screen, my Today button will take me there. When you see these little yellow suns at the bottom of the screen, they will help you to move through the appointment book on today's date. When I click the first sun, it's going to take me from 5 o'clock in the morning, where PMP opened, to my first appointment of the day, which in my case happens to be 12 o'clock. Next to the suns, you're going to see a little red blinking light. Many of you in your PMP may only see a little gray box. My blinking light is turned on to give me assistance when my patients are not on schedule. I can tell right now that my 12 o'clock and my 12:15 patients are late because they're highlighted yellow. I'm also able to tell that they're late because the red light is flashing. When I click on this blinking light, it's going to give me a list of all of my patients who are late and the practitioner that those patients are scheduled with. The advantage to me having this is that if I have multiple tabs on my appointment book, right now I only see the people who are late for Dr. Palmer. There is nothing on screen that shows me who my patients are that are late for other practitioners. That little blinking light will always show me all of the practitioners at the same time. Below the days of the week, we have activity date. The activity date is the date that is going to be attached to all of the transactions that I post today. So when my date is February the 5th, if I post treatment, I post payments, I do any write-offs, all of the dates for those transactions are going to be registered as February the 5th because that's my activity date. If I were to change the appointment book to a different day, some day other than today, please notice that my activity date stays the same. So if I go to tomorrow's appointment book, if I go to an appointment book for last week, my activity date has still remained February the 5th. So if you forgot to post a transaction yesterday and you need to go back today and do that, it's not good enough to click on the appointment book for yesterday. You absolutely must change your activity date before you can post that activity from a prior day. When you're ready to bring your appointment book back to today, click on the Today button and we'll be back to February the 5th. One of the customization options in PMP is the ability to create a letterhead that will automatically print at the top of your patient's statements. This allows you to save money. It allows you to save time. You don't have to use letterhead from your printer. Normally, I would start with a new document, but in the interest of time, I'm going to show you a letterhead that has already been created. Under your File menu, you're going to go to your word processor, and I'm going to go to the little Open File Folder icon. This is going to give me the opportunity to see what the documents are that I have available. In my letter folder, I have a template folder, and in my template folder is where all of my letterheads are saved. I have one that's called Letterhead Clinic. That's typically what you're going to see when you get a brand new PMP program and you don't have any information customized for your office yet. Once you've had the opportunity to customize a letterhead, you're going to be able to see in your template folder one that looks important to you with the information that's appropriate for your clinic. You have the ability in the word processor to use some of the same sorts of functionality that you have available in a Word program or a WordPerfect program. You can change the style and size of your font. You can determine the justification. Do you want it to be in the middle? Do you want it to be right or left justified? And you can enter all of the information that's appropriate for your office and your practitioners. The letterhead that I have created, I referred to as a clinic letterhead because it includes the name and the license number for all of the practitioners in my PMP program. The advantages to doing this are multiple. If I have a patient who sees more than one practitioner in my clinic, I don't need to print separate statements for that patient because I could give them all of their massage treatment and all of their chiropractic treatment on one statement because the letterhead includes all of the information for all of my practitioners. Another advantage that you have if you create a clinic letterhead listing all of your practitioners is that it's good advertising for your clinic. You may have a patient who sees your chiropractor but doesn't know that you have other services available in your clinic. If they get a statement and it shows the name of your massage therapists and your physiotherapists and your naturopaths, you've just got some free advertising for the office because now your patients know that there are more services available than the chiropractic services that they originally came for. Once you have created your letterhead, the key things to know once you have it looking the way you want are what to call it and where to save it. Because if it's done correctly, PMP will recognize it as a letterhead and use it for your statements. If you don't save it with the right name or you don't save it in the right place, PMP is not going to be able to find it. So once you have it the way you want it, you're going to go to your File menu, choose the option to Save As, and we want to make sure that we save it in the template folder. So we're going to double-click on Template. That's going to put it in the right place. It's going to be part of PMP in the template folder. The other key is what we call it. The name must start with the word letterhead. It can be called letterhead main. It can be called letterhead chiropractor. It can be called letterhead with the initials of your practitioner. It doesn't matter as long as the word letterhead is the first part of the file name. Once you have it saved, you can close that document with the little closed file folder, close out of your word processor, and you're going to land back on your main appointment page. There are additional customization options for your office, and they are found in the Setup menu of PMP. I'm going to give you a brief overview of some of the options, but in the interest of time, we're not going to go into great detail or cover all of the options. Please refer to your manual, or when it's available, check the Customizing PMP document on the website for examples, recommendations, and complete instructions. Under the Setup menu, we're going to start with Clinic Defaults. The clinic default should be populated with your office information. Include a default city and include a default area code, and this information is going to pre-populate a couple of the fields and save you some time when you're entering new patients. The default date at the lower left is the date that your statements will begin printing activity if you have not selected a different date or the patient file does not predetermine the date. If you just choose to print a statement and you don't put in any date reference, this is the date where PMP is going to start. Keep the date current and it will make your statements shorter and more appropriate for your patients. Once you have decided on all of the options in the clinic defaults, you're going to click OK, and PMP will take you back to the main appointment screen and save the selections that you've made. We're going to go back into the Setup menu, this time into Doctor's Defaults. This area must be set up for every practitioner that you have in PMP. Anytime that you add a new practitioner to PMP, you're going to need to come in and set up the defaults for the new practitioner. I'm going to pick on Dr. Palmer, and I'm going to choose to edit this doctor's defaults. Area that's hard-coded up at the top, the doctor's profession and license number, that's going to be predetermined when the practitioner is added to your program by the PMP department. Name and official documents is what's going to be at the top of the reports that you print for this practitioner. The name on the appointment tab you are able to change. So if you use first names only for all of your practitioners, you can make the tabs very short by putting on just the first name, or just doctor and last name only, and take away the license numbers and the first names. This is also where you assign the letterhead that we created. So the letterhead that you've done in the word processor, once it is saved, you can click on the button to select a file to use, and PMP is going to take you to all of the letterhead documents that are in the template folder. That's why it matters where you save it and what you call it, because that's the only place PMP will look for it. The other choices on this screen are going to be based on personal preference. Some of the defaults that are important for you to consider. When your patients come in and you post activity, do you want PMP to automatically decide that the patient's payment today is going to be none, or do you want it to default to today's fee? Pick the one that is appropriate for most of your patients most of the time. The purpose of a default is to save you time by not having to select all options every time you post an activity or book an appointment. So the default payment on today's activity should be chosen based on what most of your patients do most of the time. Do they pay for one visit at a time, in which case today's fee is appropriate, or do they pay for multiple visits all at once because they pay Monday for the week or Friday for the week, or they pay at the beginning or the end of the month? If that's the case, none would be the appropriate choice. Please make sure that you choose a default appointment type for each practitioner. Dr. Palmer is a chiropractor. Most of the appointments that I book for him are going to be adjustments. Doesn't mean I can't book initial visits and I can't book progress exams. It only means that PMP is going to default to an adjustment if I don't change it to something different than that. The appointment options that you have over here, again, we're not going to go into them on detail, but these are all going to be determined based on the way your practitioners schedule their patients, what time interval you're going to use, how many patients can be booked in a given time slot, and so on. When your doctor defaults have been selected and you click Accept, PMP is going to remember the selections that you made. You can go back in and pick another practitioner. If you're all done, you're going to close this window and your doctor defaults will be updated. There are some concepts in PMP that are important to understand, and one of these concepts is patient categories. Again, we're going to go into the setup menu. When I go down to patient categories, you're going to see the options that I have set up in my PMP program. Many offices have different patient fees depending upon whether the patient is a child, an adult, or a senior. If this is the case in your office, establishing patient categories for these different groups is going to allow you to set up your fee schedule to accommodate different charges for service. Categories may include staff or family, adults, students, seniors. Perhaps you have some patients who are charged a reduced fee because of their circumstances, and you may want to have a compassionate category. If you decide you no longer need a particular category, it's fine to stop using it, but please don't delete it without consulting support staff first. You may have in total up to 18 categories, and anywhere that you see unused, you can edit that to be something that's appropriate for your office. Once your categories are established, you're going to use those to input patient information when you enter a new patient, and it's going to help you when you set up your fee schedule so that you're able to determine the fees that are going to be appropriate for adults and students and children and seniors. I'm just going to take a quick look at questions. And a couple of them are things that we are going to discuss when we get to activity. So we're going to move on and go back to the setup menu. In setup now, we're going to go down to the fee schedule. And you will notice that the fee schedule is broken up into 3 different areas. The treatment fee schedule includes all of the services that you provide. Inventory includes all of the tangibles that you sell. And other includes everything else. Some examples would be your HST, PST, GST, refunds, discounts, gift certificates. Those things would all be part of the other fee schedule. If I open up the fee schedule in the treatment area, you'll see that I have a lot of different codes, many different descriptions, and a whole bunch of fees when I look over at the right side. You have the ability to add to this list. There are a few rules that are going to make it much easier for you. The first rule is that your codes must be unique. So you'll see here that I have an A for adjustment, and I have an A1 for adjustment and modality. Absolutely fine to do that because the codes are different. Under no circumstances can I use A to mean adjustment and A to mean adjustment and modality. Even if I change the fees, it's not appropriate because the codes are not different. The second thing to keep in mind when you're adding codes is to keep it simple. Consider creating codes that make it easy to find what you want. For example, A for adjustment and M for massage. Rather than numeric codes, you won't know what they mean until you read the description or memorize the numbers. So that you can see how categories apply to fees, I'm going to click on the Add button, and we're going to add a code for acupuncture. So I'm going to double-click into the code field, type in a code that's appropriate, give a description that I want to have appear on my patient statements, and then I can apply the appropriate fees. How much am I going to charge my adults for acupuncture? You don't need a decimal point. You don't need the cents. PMP will do that part for you. Then you're going to put in the fee that you're going to charge for your students and the fee that you're going to charge for your children. What am I charging my no-charge patients? What am I going to charge my seniors? As you progress through this screen, you're going to put in the appropriate fee for each of the categories that you have created. Once you have assigned a fee for all of the categories you have and you click OK, PMP is going to know when you use that ACU code for acupuncture how much it's supposed to charge each of those patients based on their category. When we create a new patient, you will see how we apply the category. I promised you some time-saving tips. One of the time-saving tips that you have available in PMP is under the Setup menu in the area called Flags. Flags are a way for you to be able to group your patients so that you can identify them for various reasons. Some of the flags that we have in here give us information that help us know when to call a patient for a reminder, or when to send the patient a statement, or who is going to be on a mailing list if I decide that I want to send out a newsletter. So if I look at my call the day before or call the same day, I could give a patient a flag of S if they need a reminder 15 minutes before their appointment because otherwise they'll forget. or they need a call the day before so that they can schedule appropriately and make sure that they're in the office on time. If I'm treating someone else's patients, maybe I need a flag of E for emergency patients so that I know those patients that have been in our office but don't actually belong to one of our practitioners. One of the favorite flags that I used to use when I was in office all the time is called primary contact. Primary contact would give you the ability to have one person flagged from every family to keep a mailing list up to date. If you were going to send out a newsletter or you're going to send out a notice of an open house, you don't need to send one to mom and dad and each of the 3 children. If you have a flag of P assigned to one of the patients in that family group, you could send that open house notice to just the people who have a flag of P, and that's going to save you a lot in mailing or a lot in time when you're sending out emails. Flags are going to be a single number or a single letter. You can create up to 36 different flags, and you can assign up to 8 flags per patient. And again, when we create a new patient, we'll see how you assign those flags. When you have your list complete, click Accept. PMP is going to save it, and it's going to be part of the system for you to be able to use it. The last item I want to discuss under the Setup menu is referrals. Most chiropractic offices track the source of their new patients. The referral list is going to help you to do that. It's important that your doctor knows if time and money are being well used or if he's wasting time, wasting money. Is it worth spending the time writing a health column for a local newspaper or doing a healthcare class in a local high school? In the referral list, down at the bottom of the Setup menu, you're going to add the names of the people who refer to your office. You're going to add the activities that the doctor is doing to help build the practice. You may have doctors in the area that are referring to your chiropractic clinic, medical doctors down the street who refer their patients for chiropractic care. If you keep this list up to date with all of those referral methods, then you're going to be able to know not only where your patients have come from, but you're going to be able to judge the effectiveness of the referral source. Is it worth writing that newspaper article or doing those healthcare classes? Once you have created your list, you want to use this information when you're entering your new patients. If you use the referral list to record all of your marketing activities and all the referral sources outside your patient database, you're going to know where your patients are coming from. You do not need to add the names of your patients to this list because PMP already has that information. And again, when your list is up to date, you're going to click OK. PMP has a lot of words that mean the same thing as save. Anytime that you see OK or continue or finish or accept, when you click that button, PMP is going to remember what you did, save the information, and it will be in your system for future reference. A couple more shortcuts for you that are available from this main appointment screen. If you are searching for your patients, you have the ability to use the letter L to get a list of patient names by last name. For a list of patients by first name, you can use the letter F. And for a list of patients by number, you can use the letter N. And PMP will give you access to your entire patient database based on that L or F or N search factor. Once you've done some of the customization in PMP, you need to be able to create new patients in PMP. And then you need to be able to book appointments, and you want to be able to post activity. Multiple ways to add a new patient are available in PMP. I'm going to show you how, and then I'm going to show you my favorite. You can right-click on your main appointment screen, and when you get this menu, Add a New Patient is one of the options. You can go into the Patient menu and add a new patient. You can click into a time slot. You have a button for Add a New Patient. My favorite, from the main screen, I'm going to press the F6 key, and that immediately takes me into patient information. At the bottom of this screen, you're going to see a button for New Patient, and when I click on that, I have an Info 1 tab ready for patient information. It's been completely cleared out and ready and waiting for me. The only things that are populated are going to be the default information and a couple of defaults over here that you have the ability to change as it's appropriate for each patient that you enter. That New Patient button, once I clicked on it, changed to a different button and has given me a new shortcut. I now have the ability to copy from existing. So if I already have someone in my patient database and another family member is coming in, when I click the Copy from Existing button, I can save myself some typing. I'm going to search for the patient that I want to copy from. I'm going to copy from Neil Love. When I double click or click and enter, what I'm going to have is last name, address, postal code, and phone number all pre-populated. So now when I go to enter that new patient, I don't have as much information to put in. I'm going to enter a first name. PMP knows that this is the person that referred. If it's not Neil but with someone else, you can pick from your list by clicking on the dots. You could pick from your patient list and choose a different patient. Neil's name is populated there. I'm going to leave that as it is. In addition, you have a referral method available. You are not able to edit this list because it's already set up in PMP programming. You can, however, pick the appropriate method in addition to picking the specific referral source. So in this case, this patient was referred by a patient who happens to be named Neil. When you get to the date of birth area, you are able to put in the information by keying in, by picking from the calendar. Your gender, we had to make a decision whether it was going to be male or female, and at the time that the programming was done, the department was all girls, so we picked female. You're going to put in a home phone number and any other phone numbers that may apply. The dot here indicates the priority phone number. So maybe the priority phone number for this patient, because he's so little, is not the home phone number, but it's mom's number at work. Absolutely fine for you to put in alternate phone numbers. Patient type generally is going to be cash. It may occasionally be an MVA patient or a WSIB patient. Patient category, we talked about that in the setup menu. When you click this drop-down arrow, that's when you get your list of all of the categories that you've set up. So in this case, we have a child. PMP is going to know exactly what fees to post because of the category that I've chosen. I may not know what the default payment type should be when this child first comes in as a new patient. But if mom or dad always pay Visa or always pay MasterCard, you can come in and you can change that selection later on when it's appropriate and you know the answer. Default code is going to be what transaction you expect this patient to have most of the time, remembering that defaults are to save you time, but they're not going to always be right. This is a chiropractic patient, so I'm going to assume that the patient is generally going to have an adjustment. And this is where you add the flags. When you click into this flag field, you're presented with the list of all of the flags that you have set up. At this point, there are not any flags that I'm going to assign to this patient. We don't need primary contact because dad is already a patient, and none of the others apply at this time. Click Cancel. The field's going to be left blank. Your Related Patient button will allow you to associate mom and dad to this new child's file. We're going to search by surname. We're going to add Amy Love, and we're going to add Neil Love because both of those people are related to this patient. So you can either double click on the name, click on the name and press enter, or click on the name and add to selected patients. Once you have the related patients on this side, we're going to click continue, and now we have a little icon indicating in Barry's file that there are patients that are related. Click save because we don't want to lose that information, and at that point PMP will assign a patient number, and it's going to add 2 new tabs, an appointment tab and an account activity tab for this patient. The other tabs that are available in patient information allow you to have more information accessible for each of your patients. On the Info To tab, you have the ability to track your email addresses. Down at the bottom of the screen, there is an area for a first visit. Soon there will be a progress report added. This gives the doctor the opportunity to communicate information about this patient to perhaps another healthcare practitioner. It's a great communication tool between your chiropractic office and the family doctor for these patients. Your pop-up tab and your comments tab both give you a place where you can record specific information that you need to know about your patients. The Health tab allows you to add a diagnostic code for your patient, and this screen works exactly the same way that the forms work when you're trying to do OCF forms in PMP in the MVA area. Bill To tab would be appropriate if you were sending patient statements to someone other than the patient. The Appointment tab is where you're going to see all of the previous appointments this patient has had and any future appointments that you have booked for the patient. It also gives you access to the patient's first visit date once you've posted a transaction. It gives you the ability to add an appointment for a patient, and from this screen you can also email an appointment calendar or email an appointment list. On the account activity screen, you're going to see all of the transactions that you've posted for the patient. It will give you the date, who was the treating doctor, what was the billing code so that you know what the transaction was, how did they pay, how much was the patient fee, how much was the payment. Below this part of the screen, you have the ability to see the total accounts receivable for the patient and how much do they owe each individual practitioner. From here you can post activity, print a statement, or email a statement for the patient. The WSIB tab is going to be used only when you have a compensation case and you're going to complete the required information. WSIB Forms tab includes some of the documentation that you need to send to WSIB when your patient is a compensation case. Extended Healthcare is where you can track the information for a patient's insurance company, but these areas are not active. It's a static field only, so it's information that you can input. PMP is not going to count down those numbers or add up the numbers, strictly for information purposes. And the MVA tab is where you're going to track all of the information related to motor vehicle accidents for your patients. Create all of the forms that you need for HCI and do all of the billing on the OCF 21s. Do we have any questions at all about patient information? We have one question about dates when entering the birth date for a patient. Is it possible to change the format? Absolutely not in PMP. The dates for birthday, the dates for appointments, the dates for activity in PMP is always in the format of day, month, year. Now that we've had a chance to take a look at the new patient file, we're going to go back to the main appointment screen and we're going to take a look at the appointments for your patients. As with new patients, there are multiple ways for you to book appointments for a patient. You can click into a time slot, pick a patient, and book an appointment. That's easy if you have only one appointment to book. But if I want to book multiple appointments for a patient, there are other ways to do it that are going to be a lot faster. One of the function keys that will give you easy access to multiple appointments is F2. When you press the F2 button, PMP automatically knows that you're saying, I want to add an appointment. So I'm going to search for a patient. I'm going to pick the patient whose appointments I want to book. And PMP gives me a whole series of options when I look at this screen. It looks a little complicated when you first look at it, but once you are familiar with it, you're going to recognize that it's a very fast way to book multiple appointments with multiple practitioners without ever having to leave this screen. PMP by default is going to assume that my appointment is with the doctor of record for this patient, and I do want to book a chiropractic appointment, so Dr. Palmer is the correct practitioner. Because Dr. Palmer's appointment type is defaulted to adjustment, PMP assumes it's going to be an adjustment appointment. It has given me today on my calendar, so if my patient is on the phone right now and I want to book an appointment for today, I'm going to accept the fact that it's December the 5th, and then I'm going to come over and take a look at my appointment grid. This time grid tells me how many appointments I already have booked in each of these time slots. I don't have anybody booked after 2:15 this afternoon. All of these appointment times are available. So if the patient said he wanted a 3 o'clock, I could click on 3 o'clock in the time grid. Immediately I'm going to see the 3 o'clock appointment screen, and if I like that appointment for this patient, then I'm going to click on finish, and that appointment is going to be booked. There's my appointment for Nathan. I'm going to do that once more and show you how to book multiple appointments on that same screen. F2, search by last name, choose my patient. When this current appointment screen comes up, I'm going to book with Dr. Palmer for an adjustment, and I'm going to book Wednesday and Friday this week and Wednesday and Friday next week. When I click on the 6th, I have my appointment screen. Patient wants 10 o'clock. It's available because I know that my practitioner can see 4 people and there's only 2 currently booked at 10 o'clock. And I'm going to add another appointment. PMP has moved the calendar one day, but I don't want Thursday, I do want Friday. I'm clicking on Friday. PMP remembers that the appointment that I just booked was at 10 o'clock. So I can choose 10 o'clock to be the same, or I can pick a different time. If I click 10:15, very quickly it pops up in green on this side of the screen, and I'm going to add another appointment because I need to for next week. For next Wednesday, I'm clicking on the 13th. PMP remembers my 10:15, and I'm going to add that appointment. And then I'm going to go to Friday. But on Friday, we don't want a chiropractic appointment by itself. We want chiropractic and massage. Massage is generally harder to book, so I'm going to choose the doctor for this appointment, find my massage therapist. This tells me that Laurel Hardy is not in the office on Friday. I can tell by the color. So I can go to another massage therapist and see what appointment times are available. So without ever leaving this screen, I have the ability to check all of the schedules for all of my practitioners. 10 o'clock in the morning, we're going to book a 60-minute massage with Albert, and after that, I'm going to book a chiropractic appointment. So I want to add another appointment. I'm coming back to the 15th. This appointment's not going to be with my massage therapist. It's going to be with my chiropractor. PMP assumes the default adjustment because I changed the practitioner, and I know that I need to book an appointment following the massage, so I'm going to book an appointment for 11:15 for an adjustment. When I click finish, all of those appointments have been booked for the patient. If I forget what I booked or the patient wants to confirm the time, I can look at a list of appointments and see everything that I've booked while I'm in here. I also have the ability from this screen to print a list, print a calendar, email a list, or email a calendar. I'm happy with the appointments. We click finish. I've now booked half a dozen appointments for that patient. When you are booking appointments, you may be booking appointments that you need to remind. You may be booking appointments that are already confirmed. The patient doesn't need to be reminded. You may have a situation where you booked an appointment and the patient missed. All of those are called statuses in PMP. So when I look at this appointment screen and I see an italics name for Brandon, it tells me that's an unconfirmed appointment. When I have called him and confirmed his appointment, left him a message, he said yes, he'll come, whatever the situation, click confirmed, click finished, his name is no longer italics. But there are shortcuts for me to do that. If I put this box around Sharon's name because her appointment is unconfirmed, I can use the letter C to make that appointment confirmed. And I can do exactly the same with Susan. That's a pop-up from patient information. In addition to being able to use the shortcut C to mark someone confirmed, I can mark a patient arrived by using A, and as soon as someone has arrived, the name has changed to be blue. I can use the letter M to mark somebody missed. I can use the letter P to mark somebody postponed. All of those shortcuts will work. The one thing I can't do with a shortcut is to reschedule a patient. To reschedule a patient, I actually have to click on the name, click on rescheduled. When I click finish, PMP is going to remind me to book an appointment for this patient. I'm going to click OK. I now have a little R. That's PMP's way of reminding me that I have to book an appointment for somebody because I said I was going to. I'm going to go to Wednesday on my appointment book, or I'm going to go to Saturday on my appointment book, whatever is appropriate for your patient. Click into the appropriate time slot and click finish. My R is gone, my patient is rescheduled, and when I go down to the bottom of the screen and click on today, I'm back on today's appointment screen. When your patients come in for their visits, you need to be able to charge them the fees, post the transactions that are appropriate for today's visit, and accept the payments that they're going to apply to their accounts. Again, multiple ways for you to post activity for a patient. My personal preference is to take this little black box that we call the cell pointer or the cursor, put it around the patient's name. If you put that box around the patient's name and press the F10 key, another shortcut, PMP is automatically going to know that you want to post activity for this particular patient. So on the right side of the screen, it shows me who the patient is. The left side of the screen is where I'm going to post my patient activity. This area at the top of the screen is always the area for fees. The area at the bottom is always the area for payments. So this is what affects your cash flow. This is what affects your doctor's revenue. you have the option to click into the code field, and it's going to give you a list of everything that you've created in your fee schedule. So today we're going to post an adjustment for Erin. PMP is automatically going to charge her $35 because it knows what her category is, and because my fee schedule says her category, adult, says $35 for an adjustment. The default in Doctor's Default says none for the payment. If that is correct, I'm going to leave it at none. If Erin says she's going to pay me today's fee, I'm going to change the radio dot to today's fee, accept the $35 payment. Her default type for payment has been set up as Visa. If that's what she's giving me today, I don't need to change it. And I'm going to click Post. I now get a reminder that I need to book another appointment for her, and at this point I can add an appointment, or I can add an appointment for the same time next week, or same time next month, which will be 4 weeks from today. Next week, same time works for her. I click this button. I now have an appointment scheduled for her for next Tuesday. When I click Continue, I'm back on my main appointment screen. We're going to move that little black box to Gordon, who's booked at 1 o'clock. Press F10. And the transactions for Gordon today, an adjustment. So I can, again, click or just press A. Press Enter to accept that it is an adjustment. Now when I look at the payment area for Gordon, I can see that today's fee is $35, but he owed me $35 at the beginning of today's visit, so his entire account balance is $70. Where it shows me doctor number 1 at the bottom, this is how much money is owed to just Dr. Palmer. Dr. Palmer is the treating practitioner. That's what it shows me at the top of my screen. So where it says doctor number 1, that is just the amount owed to this practitioner. So if Gordon gives me $35, it doesn't matter if I choose doctor number 1 or today's fee. It's going to apply that $35 payment to this adjustment. He's giving me cash, I post it, and it's going to leave that $35 that he had at the beginning of today's visit still outstanding for the next time. Again, a reminder to book an appointment. I'm going to say same time next week to be quick and click Continue, and we're finished with that patient. You have the ability also to do multiple transactions at the same time for a patient. So for Bruce Scott, who's in at 1 o'clock, I put the box around his name, press F10. I get to the activity screen. In addition to his adjustment today, he's also buying a pillow. So I can click and search for my pillow code. If I happen to know what it is, I can type it in. And PMP is going to keep a running balance of the total of today's transactions. It shows me today's fee was $85. His entire account balance is $120, and all of that $120 is owed to practitioner number 1. So when I click account balance, because Bruce is giving me $120, he's going to pay me by MasterCard, and post it. PMP will pay $120 off on his account. Multiple transactions are no problem for PMP to handle. Sometimes you will have a patient who comes into the office and they will not have any fees. That's the case with our patient Margaret at 1 o'clock. F10, when I use the A code to post an adjustment for Margaret, it comes up saying she has a 0 fee. But if I click Post right now, it's going to give me an error message. There's nothing to post. I need to press Enter and tell PMP that yes, I really mean that there is a 0 fee for today. And then I can post the transaction. The visit is recorded. There is no fee. She has no balance. There is no payment. I'm going to post. And she's in once a month, so I'm booking for her a month from now. One of the other transactions that's very common, and the last one that I'll show you because we're close to being out of time, is a transaction where you receive a check in the mail. Your patient doesn't have an appointment today. There's no name on screen. The shortcut that you can use to post that check payment would be F12. When I press F12, PMP knows it's patient activity, just doesn't know who the patient is. So I'm going to look for my patient by last name. Because I pressed F12, PMP knows its activity. You'll notice that down in the left corner there is a shortcut key, press F10 to pay. So I'm not going to put in a code for payment. I'm just going to press F10. PMP is going to say, oh, that means payment only, and ask me for my amount. I received a check in the mail for her entire account balance, so I'm going to click on account balance. It was a payment by check, and post that transaction. What you're going to notice is that there is no appointment on screen for Candace. She didn't have an appointment. It was a payment only, so it does not appear on my appointment book, and that's appropriate. The last shortcut before we're done is going to be F4. With all of the transactions that you post during the day, you want to make sure at the end of the day that everything's being recorded correctly and that you're able to balance the cash in your drawer and the money that you have in your debit machine. When you press F4, your summary sheet's going to come up. It's going to give you a list of all of the patients you saw, who their doctor of record is, who does the patient belong to, who is the treating doctor for today's transaction, the code for the transaction you posted, how it was paid, how much was paid, what was your patient fee. A shortcut for you to save some time, always take a look at this next appointment column at the end of the day to make sure that you didn't forget to book an appointment for somebody or you didn't forget to put it in PMP. When you go to the last page, this is where the summary information is. This is your cash flow for today. Those are the numbers that should tell you how much cash you have in the drawer, how many dollars worth of checks do you have in the drawer, and Visa and MasterCard on your debit machine. This fee in the middle, total claims and fees for the day, is what was the doctor's revenue that was generated. Down at the bottom, you see the accounts receivable total as of today's date, and this is one of the options in Doctor Defaults. You have some statistics on the right-hand side indicating how many patients you saw today from each patient category, and a number that warrants explanation is this doctor of record in the lower left-hand corner. We get lots of support calls asking for this. It is possible for me to be a patient of your chiropractor's, but I may be treated by other practitioners in your clinic. This doctor of record breakdown shows you on any given day of all of this money earned by Dr. Palmer, whose patients did he treat to earn it. Today it happens that he only saw his own patients, so $155 of the money he earned was earned by treating his own patients. But sometimes it might show Laurel, it might show Dr. Pierce down here because Dr. Palmer has treated other people's patients. This has nothing to do with who earned the money. It has everything to do with whose patients were treated to earn this amount of money. Most of the questions that have been answered, I will be able to answer by email at the end of the webinar. We are at about 1:16, and I promised that we were going to be an hour. So I don't want to hold anybody else up. I would like to thank you all for your attendance today. Please feel free for any questions that have not been answered. Check your email. I'll make sure they get answered for you. If there are any questions you would like to ask that you did not ask during the webinar, please feel free to send them to support@chiropractic.on.ca, or you're welcome to call the support line. Long distance, the number is 800-561-4700. 7361, and remember that by going to your Help menu and clicking on About, you can always get the support and the OCA information that you need. Thank you for taking your time to join us today, and we will answer your questions, I promise. Thank you.